morning and happy Saturday, you guys. It is Amanda and Baron with Kickin'Cancer Cares on KSLM Radio, 104.3 FM and 1220 AM. And we are so glad you guys joined us.
Yay!
I want to give a huge shout out to our sponsor, which is Mike from Odd Moe's Pizza. He has been there with us from the very beginning, so huge shout out to him. This cancer is near and dear to his heart, so... this week, so I've been going there more often.
Okay.
And this week, I think for dinner for my kids, I'm going to grab their poppers, their potato poppers, and I'm going to get one of each of the noodles. Pastas.
Oh, the pastas.
I couldn't think of it.
The noodles.
For my family.
Yes. I think there's like 3 or 4 choices.
There's 3 choices.
3 choices.
Absolutely amazing. And then they also have 3 choices of salads as well. Phenomenal. It's not just pizza there. And their pizza is not like any other pizza that we have here in Salem, Kaiser area or anywhere. Their ingredients are so good and so fresh. I can't get over the Green Monster, the artichokes. I love the artichoke hearts on the pizza.
Remember when the pastas first came out, and I thought, well, you and I should taste it since we're, Mike's a sponsor. And so I called the guy and I said, Amanda and I are going to share one. Is it big enough for 2? He says, well, one person could eat it. They could. They probably shouldn't eat all of it. But you and I tasted it months back. Yeah. They're really good pastas.
They were. And actually 3 of us
That's right. 3 of us shared that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it wasn't like we were hungry, but we weren't overly full either.
No, yeah.
And that's kind of where I'm at in life. I'll go to a restaurant, and I know that's more than I should eat. So I'm like, go ahead and bring me a box, and I'll eat till I'm comfortable. I'll take the rest home with me.
Yeah.
As opposed to, well, I probably should eat all of this.
Yes. So. And I think another thing that I love about Mike and Odd Moe's Pizza is how he treats his employees. Truly, I'm so sorry. I don't know.
Mike's calling you. Like,
he's hiring you guys. So
he's hired you, apparently.
If you are looking for a job and you're 18 years or older, he's looking for drivers and inside workers. So you can reach out, and amazing guy to work for. He really cares about his employees and holds them to a high standard as well.
Do you know who one of his newest employees is?
Who?
Ashlie.
Really? Whoop whoop.
She's part of his company now.
Do you want a little dance in my chair?
Do you know who one of Kickin'Cancer's newest employees is?
Ashlie as well.
Ashlie.
Congratulations.
I analyzed our budget, and I found a way to pay her for everything that she's been doing.
I love that, because you're absolutely amazing with all that you do for the show and our YouTube channel, what is our YouTube channel called? Give it a plug.
So it's called Kickin'Cancer Productions. We are now at 51 subscribers.
Okay.
So just if you're listening on the radio, go to YouTube, go to Kickin'Cancer Productions, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Yes. I hate being behind a camera, though. I really do.
You're doing so good with it.
You've done amazing.
You're better than me at looking at the camera right now. Well, before we get too far into the show, we have a wonderful guest with us. And it is just amazing how I was able to connect with Elizabeth and hear her whole story. So introduce yourself, please.
Hi, thank you for having me. My name is Elizabeth Castro, and I am a cancer survivor, uterine cancer survivor. It's been 8 years that I've been cancer-free now.
Yay.
So
we're going to go much deeper into her story, but we are wearing peach today.
Is that uterine color?
Cancer.
Okay.
Yep, uterine
I love it. I'm so sorry. I forgot mine.
Well, you're going to go white and peach, and that's okay. And for those that can't see behind the camera, we've got Ashley's wearing her peach shirt too.
Yes, she is.
We're all supporting.
Mine is sitting on my bed. It was coming with me.
Here we go. Now we can see that she's got her shirt on. We're going to go deeper into her story. It's really a pretty amazing story, and I'm excited to be able to share it with you guys.
Yeah.
But
thank you for joining us.
Yes,
thank you for having me. Yeah.
Speaking of exciting, last week with Mickey and Dr. Cherie, that was a super fun interview. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yes, it was.
Dr. Cherie's story is pretty amazing too. So she beat. It started in the fallopian tubes, then it went to her uterus, then it came back just outside the uterus. So once at 26, 36, 45, and then finally at 52, it's breast cancer. So she beat cancer 4 times.
That's bizarre. She's
4
amazing.
times.
Yeah.
And not once did she do chemo or radiation.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very powerful, her story. So if you guys missed it, it's on podcast and on our YouTube channel.
Yeah. Well, as we get deeper into Elizabeth's story, Dr. Cherie set the stage for not doing chemo And you're going to hear why maybe chemo's not the best option, because her story is going to kind of wander down that road too.
Oh, okay.
But before we get to that, I have an exciting one for you today.
Hit me with it.
I told you beforehand. So today's, again, this is a magazine called 100 Disease-Fighting Foods. We've just been kind of going through this a little at a time. Today's disease-fighting food is hot chocolate.
And 'tis the season.
'Tis the season. And the key here is that you want to use cocoa powder.
Yes.
Which is made from the cacao bean. So it contains flavonoids that has been linked to cardiovascular benefits.
Okay.
Large studies review concludes that cocoa products deliver a small reduction in blood pressure for healthy adults.
Okay.
Now, here's what I find intriguing is for the healthiest cocoa, buy 100% cacao rather than packets with added sweeteners.
Okay.
So you know why we all love hot chocolate?
Yeah.
Because it's all stuffed full of sweeteners and stuff, you know?
Yes.
But you were saying a little earlier, you like to go to Trader Joe's and buy like 90%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, could we piggyback off of last week's food, which was honey? Could you put like a little bit of honey in your hot cocoa to make it more sweet? Like give it, versus the sugars if it's not
I'm pretty
sweet.
sure we decided you could add honey to almost anything last week.
Yeah, this is very, very, very true. One of my nephews for football, he started doing a spoonful of honey every day. For whatever reason, he just thinks it'll help him with just being a better self, and
the
so
antibodies in it. It
Yeah.
helps keep you from getting sick.
Yes.
It helps your immune system.
yeah. So he's been doing a spoonful of honey every morning. I thought that was really cool. It's like,
super
look at
powerful.
you.
Yeah, you can get it from your local farmers market and
Yes.
get local honey to get all the benefits.
Yes, please support local.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to bring you a couple of updates.
Okay.
The first one is a fun update. It's this coming Friday, and it's called Mavericks Music and More. It's a free event to the public. It's out at Volcano Stadium. There's an event on Facebook that you can say you're coming. You're going to go to the event, or go to our website and RSVP. It's just for a head count, like how many concession stands do we have open?
Yeah.
But from 6 to 8, there's a band in town called Fam Jam.
Okay.
And they're a really fun band that is kind of 70s and 80s type music, but not a big rock concert.
Yeah.
So you get your food, your beer, you go listen. At the stadium, we're going to open up what's called the Gaming Lodge, so kids can go play video games.
Oh, that's cool. Like an arcade?
Yep.
I didn't know they had one of those.
Yep. It's out in left field line.
Cool.
Noah is going to set up some baskets, and so you can play some disc golf if you want. And that'll go from 8 to 9, or 6 to 8, and then from 8 to 9, there's a local softball team that wanted to play underneath the lights. And so we're actually going to kick the lights on, and they're going to play a 1-hour softball game, but they're all going to wear a different color of cancer shirt.
Oh, that'll be so cool. It'll be like a little neon party out there.
Oh, yeah, we've got lime green, we've got a really bright yellow, we got some bright oranges with those lights. Yeah. I said, with that many guys in those colors, it'll be like a bag of Skittles just scattered all over the baseball stadium, right?
It will.
And I do love the name of their game. It's the Kickin'Cancer on the AstroTurf softball game.
I love it how it's always incorporated.
I got to find a way to put it there somehow. But the two updates I want to give you on some people. So many of you have heard when Brenda called in and gave you an update on my sister, her situation. Her first surgery was 2 weeks ago. And I want her to give you a little idea of the depth of what happened. And just so Elizabeth knows, my sister and I co-founded this. She had gotten breast cancer. They did a radical mastectomy. She did do an implant. The implant came back. The tumor attached itself to the implant. Oh. So the second time around, they take the implant out. She thinks everything's fine. The third time, it's actually in the skin. It's called cutaneous. And so they had to go in and actually cut some skin out.
Yeah.
Except for those that have met my sister, she's not a very big person.
No, she's very tiny.
So on her left breast, they cut 6 inches long. That's probably not 6 inches, but 6 inches long, 2.5 inches wide, and a 1/2 inch deep.
That's a huge cut.
And that's the chunk that they took out in an effort to get rid of the tumor and the lesions that had grown, right, in the skin. Except the concern was that the markers from where the cancer was and to where the skin is not, there was a 1/2 millimeter that they weren't sure about. And so her oncologist said, given the fact that it's come back the 3rd time in the exact same place, they wanted to go in and do one more surgery.
Okay. They wanted to get that margin.
Yeah. Which was this week.
Yeah. Okay.
And so what they did this time is they cut another 6 inches long, same length, a 1/4 inch wide, and a 1/4 inch deep.
Okay.
And I did talk to her a few days ago after the surgery, and she said that the pain was just a searing
I bet.
pain through this whole region.
That's a massive chunk taken out of your
6
body.
inches long.
And not just once, twice.
Twice.
Where they went in. And how far apart were those surgeries? Do you know?
They were 2 weeks apart.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
2 weeks apart.
That's not very long at all.
No.
How
So
was
that-
she holding up?
Well, you've talked to Brenda several times, and her spirits are usually really good.
Always.
And her
Always.
spirits were not as good as normal.
Yeah. Okay.
Mostly just because I think it was the pain, you know.
Just an exhaustion. Your body just went through 2 surgeries. You're fighting cancer. I mean, all of it. It's exhausting.
It's exhausting. And
It's
she will bounce
exhausting.
back. She always does.
Always.
But,
oh, she's so resilient. I absolutely adore her.
well, the other
a fighter.
one is a little harder one to tell you.
Okay.
But we've had Russ Hedge as a guest twice.
Yes.
And for those that haven't heard Russ's story, we'll find a way to get those podcasts to you so you can go listen to the podcast originally.
Yes.
It was 2 years ago. It was 2 years ago in the summer that Russ saw a spot on the bottom of his foot that wound up being melanoma. And by the end of 2022, he's like, okay, you have skin cancer. And he went in for surgery. Well, they cut they cut the skin cancer on the bottom of his foot, and then it began working its way up his leg. So it metastasized up his leg.
Yeah.
They had him on immunotherapy. It was working, then it wasn't working. They found a spot in his lungs, and so they wanted to do another MRI to double check. So this is a very recent update within this week. And he said that they found a small tumor from that MRI, and it's in the left temporal lobe of his brain, which is not a good spot to be.
No. And I don't mean to be doubtful about it, but that's just what they can see also.
Correct. So what they found was a spot in his lungs and a spot in his brain.
And if it's spreading that quick, then what else is there that is not visible?
Yeah. But for anyone who's met Russ and know his spirit, his next statement is very powerful. So he says, but I serve a big God. I trust him for my healing to be with me through this process.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
So
Amen.
we don't know more about Russ yet, but we do know that Russ is spreading.
Yeah.
And we'll all pray for Brenda and for Russ.
Yes. Yes. Please. Continued prayers and for Marianne as well.
Yeah, I don't have an update for you on Marianne recently, but
That's okay.
hers is tough too.
Yeah.
Well, there was something that I said last week, and we have a very dedicated listener in Yuma, Arizona, that called me out on it. and it's okay, because we get talking on the show, and I get excited, and I didn't exactly say the right thing. So I do want to correct myself.
Okay. Good for you. Good for you.
We were talking about the birth of the pharmaceutical industry, and we were talking about this scientist at Bayer. And what I said last week was that the willow bark led to him creating acetaminophen. That is incorrect.
Okay.
And I want the listeners to know that, because I don't want to come across like some guy who's just making things up.
Right. Right.
So I do want to read you what the book says. And if I had read it last week, I probably could write it. So what it says, the scientists at Bayer began experimenting with acetylsilic acid.
Okay.
Acetylsilic acid, which is that extract that's in the bark.
Okay.
And acetylsilic acid is what they use to create aspirin.
Okay.
So the birth of the pharmaceutical industry was aspirin. And in my enthusiasm last week, I inadvertently told you it was acetaminophen. That's incorrect. So
Okay. Well, thank you for owning that.
correcting my
Yes.
error.
I love that. I love that. If we can't correct ourselves, then what are we even doing? You know?
Yeah, right. But in that same book that we talked about last week, I want to read you something that's going to tie in really, really well with what Elizabeth went through.
Okay.
Okay. So there's another doctor in here. His name is Dr. Arnold Relman. And he is the former editor-in-chief of the New England Journal of Medicine.
Okay.
So he's not just another doctor.
Right.
Right?
No.
And he says, this is his quote, he says, the medical profession is being bought by the pharmaceutical industry. I'm going to say it again.
Yeah, that was in the back.
The medical profession is being bought by the pharmaceutical industry, not only in terms of the practice of medicine, but also in terms of teaching and research. The academic institutions of this country are allowing themselves to be paid agents of the pharmaceutical industry. I think it's disgraceful. This is the editor-in-chief of the New England Journal of Medicine. So to validate what he just said,
Yeah.
in the United States, medical doctors get their education and earn their degrees at institutions funded by the drug industries. Doctors are certified by the American Medical Association, which receives funding from drug companies.
Yep.
Doctors prescribe drugs approved by the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, which receives roughly $100 million per year
Wow.
in user fees from drug companies for new drugs applications. So if you want to get a new drug on the market, you have to pay a user fee to the FDA from the pharmaceutical company.
So just within user fees, that's where that money's coming from?
$100 million per year.
Wow.
Okay? The pharmaceutical industry has 1,200 registered lobbyists in Washington, D.C., and they spend $900 million lobbying on legislation and $90 million in campaign contributions to politicians.
Wow.
They are buying the medical profession.
Absolutely.
So
I can agree with that. They have way too much power. Way too much power. And then we wonder why things cost an arm and a leg in your firstborn child, because they're spending $900 million on political things and lobbyists. That's outrageous to me.
I find it intriguing that here's this guy, he's the editor-in-chief of a big magazine, and the magazine is actually a journal for medicine, right? And he comes out and says, it's disgraceful what's happening, and then he goes on to give you some statistics on what he's talking about. Well, I want to give you a real-life example of what he's talking about.
Okay.
Have you met Elizabeth yet?
Hello.
So I want to take you back to 2015.
Okay.
Elizabeth was 36 years old. Tell us your diagnosis.
So after a year of doctors not finding out what was really wrong with me, I finally know that it's stage 4 endometrial cancer, uterine. And I'm being prepped for surgery the next morning. Everything is happening really fast. And then after surgery, I found out that it also spread to the liver. So at first they thought that it was just stage 3, but when they knew that it was spread to the liver, then it was a definite stage 4.
Yeah.
So the doctors thought that the cancer was all over my body, and they thought that it had spread to the lungs, but no, it had just stayed in the liver. But I had chemo and radiation, and it didn't work. The cancer was still very much alive. So
can I back you up just for a second?
Go ahead.
So she wrote me her story.
Okay.
and there's some parts that, if you don't mind.
Okay. Go ahead.
Just these. It was interesting because I kept saying, "Will you write your story down for me so I know what you're talking about?" And she's like, "It's really hard to relive this."
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But this is what I find intriguing. You were 36 years old. You were suffering severe, ongoing abdominal pain and bleeding.
Yeah.
Wow.
But your regular OBGYN was booked solid.
Yeah.
And you had no appointments. In other words, you're having abdominal pain and you're bleeding, and you cannot get into your OBGYN.
Right. This was in California. She was booked solid for 3 months.
Wow.
So then you went to the ER, where they did a CT scan, but the doctor said that it was inconclusive and told you to see your doctor. But since your OBGYN was booked solid,
you had no options.
So then you were referred to one of the colleagues, and then had never, after having a pap smear, they told you that supposedly that she wasn't supposed to tell you. So you get a pap smear.
This colleague, she comes up and she says, I'm not supposed to tell you this, but I need you to see a professional because what I see here, and she did her knuckle like this, and she said, she put it in her fist. She said, is as hard as this knuckle. This is at least stage 3 cancer. And I was like, what? It was so scary.
Yeah, probably the last thing you ever expected to hear.
I just felt like the earth opened up and I was just going down because it was cancer runs in my family. So
it was scary. Yeah.
You did say earlier that you have Lynch syndrome.
Yes, I now after genetic testing, I know that we are a Lynch family. My mom, cousins.
What's that?
It's a gene that affects the colon. In males and in women, the reproductive system and sometimes the brain.
Okay.
So genetically, she had this predisposition. Remember when we had the gentleman from OHSU with the Knight Institute?
Yeah.
And what they're doing at the Knight Institute is literally giving her the information.
Yes.
You do this DNA test, and they say, oh, by the way, you have this Lynch syndrome.
Yep. They send it to your home. And you just fill out a questionnaire. They send a little box to your home. You do the test, send it back, and it's great.
Okay.
Well, you mentioned getting that news, and I can't even imagine getting the news that you have this tumor that's as big as your knuckles and as hard as your knuckles.
Yeah.
And the person wasn't supposed to tell you because they're not certified to tell you what they see. But she's like, I would feel bad if I didn't tell you.
Right.
But it's interesting what you wrote here, Elizabeth. You said the person said she was pretty sure that you had stage 3 because the mass she saw was as hard as her knuckles.
Yeah.
You said, I was so scared you sat in your car and cried and prayed.
I bet.
I was in shock. I went to my car and I cried and I prayed because at that moment you realize, everything that you have could just be gone. And my mother passed away from cancer. She was given 6 months, and she only lasted 6 weeks. So it was a fast decline. So I thought, oh man, am I next?
This is what's going to happen.
This is what's going to happen to me. Yeah. So I didn't even know how to tell my family. I just called a friend and a church friend, very dear to me, and I said, this is what's going on. I need you to start a prayer group. And he said, sure, we're going to get you in the prayer group. And ever since then, the church found out about what was going on. And they were so dear to me, they offered me a treatment.
Oh.
We're going to get deeper into what they did for her, right? We have these Kleenexes for a reason.
Oh, thank you.
Well, before we're out of time, I do want to tell what you said after you sat in your car and cried. You said the next morning, the pain was so severe that you couldn't even walk.
Yeah.
And so a friend rushed you to the hospital. You were prepped for emergency surgery, and that's kind of where you started a little bit ago. Everything happened so fast. You were very scared. And you had a total hysterectomy because the cancer was aggressive.
Yeah.
It was actually stage 4. It had started in the uterus. It had spread to the other reproductive organs. It had jumped to the liver. There were 19 lymph nodes the size of eggs. 19 lymph nodes the size of eggs.
Compromised.
Whoa.
The surgeon was sure it was throughout your body, the chemo and radiation, but the cancer was still alive. And I want to pick that story up in our second half. There's so much more to tell.
Yeah.
But can you even imagine, Amanda, that you go in for this check and they're like, well, it's about this big and it's about this hard?
Yeah.
That would be scary.
I think I would have done the exact same thing you went and did. Go outside into your car and cry and pray.
Yeah.
I think that would have been...
Yeah.
And then from there, I don't know what I would have done.
Well, the last thing that I want to leave with before the commercial break is what you said here. You said there was nothing they could do. At that time, immunotherapy wasn't an option, but God had other plans for you.
Yes.
Oh, I love that. Okay, I can't wait.
plan.
Okay, I want to give a huge shout out to our sponsor for this first half, which is Odd Moe's Pizza. Mike, absolutely amazing. If you guys want to order a pizza, the Reggie Veggie is a good one. And then what's that chicken barbecue one?
I think it's called chicken barbecue.
Oh my gosh.
That's the bull rider.
The bull rider.
rider.
I just had that.
Oh, that's
Just have that.
It's never
she's on the staff now.
It's never as simple as just chicken and barbecue. Shame on you. Odd Moe's doesn't roll like that.
They always have some fun days for it. I
The lime sauce.
being a
yes.
smart aleck.
So those are a really amazing options. So go check them out, you guys, and we'll be right back. Stay tuned.